new Elio trailer just dropped and I want to talk about it today. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit that I keep forgetting that Elio exists at all and is coming out very soon. Every couple of months there's going to be some more news and a trailer that drops, and when I see it I'm really excited for it, but then I go back to forgetting about it. When I remember it, I'm all in, like just recently when that final trailer just dropped, but then it fades away so rapidly. I know this is a completely anecdotal experience, but it does have me a bit worried about the movie. I wonder how well it's actually going to do. Don't get me wrong, I definitely think in terms of its overall reception, it's going to do just fine. After all, it's very rare that Pixar releases a film that's considered bad, or even mid really. Regardless of how many people go to see them, they're generally considered to be well-made, quality films that people will enjoy. I think my more major and pressing concern, though, is that people don't have as much interest in Pixar's more original content, as opposed to sequels which are a proven draw in this era. Gone are the golden days of the 2010s where it seemed like everything Pixar and Walt Disney Animated Studios were touching would overflow with money. Gone are the regular billion-dollar or close to billion-dollar box offices for film after film after film. Things have been far more modest recently. Toy Story 4 came out in 2019, and that was all well and good. It crossed the billion-dollar mark and set the studio up for big success leading into the 2020s. But then COVID happened right in the middle of Onward's cinematic release and killed it stone dead. From then on, COVID just did such a number on the releases for the studio. Soul, Luca, Turning Red, they never had a chance. Audiences got really accustomed to seeing new Pixar films just release on Disney+, and they weren't ready to change their habits and go back to the cinema. Hell, the box office in general took time to properly recover after the whole COVID shutdown, and so Lightyear really just failed. You would have thought that since it was a spin-off of Toy Story, that might have given it a chance, but it really didn't. It well and truly crashed and burned, only grossing $226 million off a budget of $200 million. Bit of a yikes moment for Pixar, to tell you the truth. It's probably their least successful movie ever. It didn't stop there though. The very next year they released Elemental, which in my eyes was a really great movie. I loved it a lot, but it didn't have the strongest run at the box office. It started off very poorly, and whilst it did recover momentum, it wasn't what the studio would have wanted originally. It ended up grossing $496 million off of $200 million, which was better than Lightyear, but also far removed from the glory days. Then just last year, we saw the release of Inside Out 2, which well and truly changed the fortunes of the studio significantly. Grossing $1.6 billion off a budget of $200 million, it was by far the studio's biggest hit of all time, and was rather briefly the most lucrative animated film ever made until it was overtaken earlier this year. So what can we see here? It's that sequels sell far better than original content in the current market. And it's the same with other studios too, not just Pixar. Let's have a look at Walt Disney Animated Studios for the same 3 years. 2022 saw the release of Strange World, which had a budget of between $135 and $180 million and grossed $73 million. Yes, it grossed $73 million off of over $100 million. Didn't even make back its listed budget, combined with marketing costs, ending up making it one of the biggest box office bombs ever. There's a Wikipedia page that keeps track of this sort of data, and if you sort by the raw data of nominal loss of money, apparently it's the third biggest bomb of all time. Massive humiliation for the studio. Wish in 2023 celebrated 100 years of Disney, and it was also a flop. Nowhere near as bad, but still a massive flop. It had a budget of up to $200 million and grossed $255 million. But then what do you know? Moana 2 came out last year and $1 billion. For completionist's sake, we'll look at Illumination for those same years. Minions: The Rise of Gru came out in 2022. It grossed $940 million off of $100 million. Super Mario Bros., which isn't a sequel but is part of a world-famous franchise, the very next year grossed $1.3 billion off $100 million. Then Migration later that year, original content, only $300 million. Despicable Me 4 in 2024 though, $971 million. These are the 3 biggest animated studios in the industry, and their recent data all says the exact same thing. People want nostalgia. They want more of the same characters, the same worlds, the same franchises. In an animated context at the very least, it is sequels that are a selling point. It seems like they all realize this as well. Look at their upcoming slates or films that are known to be in development. Pixar has Elio and Hoppers, true, but they also have Toy Story 5, Coco 2, and Incredibles 3. Illumination's planning a Mario sequel, as well as a third Minions film, a third Secret Life of Pets, and a third Sing. Disney has Zootopia 2, and Frozen 3 and 4. It seems like a massive pivot from most of the studios. Illumination's always been sequel hungry, but Disney and Pixar, they were trying new things and forging new franchises. It just didn't work. And there's no evidence to suggest that anything's changed since then. I'd be extremely happy to be wrong about it, but the numbers suggest that there's a good chance Elio doesn't quite make the splash Pixar would want because it's not a sequel to a more well-known film. It's so strange to see how audience taste can shift so much over the short span of time. So here we are, at the final trailer, and whilst I do feel somewhat doom and gloom about this film's prospects with all that in mind, I'll still be going to see it, and I'm still excited, and so we'd better jump into the trailer. We start off with a look at Elio being dropped off at school on what seems to be his last day before the summer begins. After his aunt drives off, he makes his escape to have his own fun, likely going to try to get abducted by aliens. I suspect this is going to be just before that scene where those dudes find him on the beach, and he tells them he's actively trying to get abducted. Between this scene, and then his aunt yelling at him in her office, at I guess the Air Force Base or something, he gets this eye patch thingy. I figured it was for a lazy eye or something, but maybe he also gets some sort of eye injury? I'm not really all that sure how they're going to cover this, because unless there's some bridging scenes that skip a bit of time, the transition doesn't make too much sense. I suppose the trailer might be just splicing up scenes in audio though. We then have that same scene from a previous trailer where his aunt's going through the Parenting Troubled Children book trying to find solutions. I have to say I looked on Wikipedia just before and I realized that as recently as I think 2024, or at least that's when they announced it, that they'd intended for this to be his mum, not his aunt, but they changed it for the plot to make more sense. And I gotta say I like this change and I think it serves the narrative a lot better. If he is truly a newly orphaned kid with an aunt who's never had a child before and is struggling with it but is trying her best, you could see why he'd want to be abducted by aliens. He wants to find somewhere where he belongs. He doesn't want to be a burden. But if it's his mum, it kind of implies that she's a very bad parent. So I think the change is for the best because it's pretty clear at the end he's going to come back and live on Earth with her. You wouldn't want him going back to a shitty parent. Also, I guess they're really going to emphasize that the aunt is new at this whole parenting thing because her great solution to Elio's issues with not feeling like he belongs and not having friends is to take him to what seems to be a military camp for the summer. He clearly doesn't want to go, but since she went there as a kid and enjoyed it, it means it's 100% going to work on him. Yes, take your dorky little nephew with no friends who's obsessed with aliens and space to a camp like this. Do they not have, I don't know, space camp? I feel like somebody like Elio would enjoy space camp, potentially meeting like-minded people there to be his friend. Just a thought. Instead, let's send him somewhere he's going to have nothing in common with anybody and feels like a prime target to be bullied. Big yikes. We then cut back to what I assume is his house where he's sitting alone on the roof, trying to attract the attention of aliens. As we know, it doesn't work. We then cut to his abduction scene, which I presume is going to take place near Camp Carver where he's staying. I suspect either he ditches out on the first day, or he's going to get bullied a little bit in a montage, and then goes out in search of aliens one last time, or maybe to just get away from the bullies, and then he gets taken. He then meets a glowing orby thing that I'm pretty sure we met in the first trailers, who adjusts his gravity and takes a DNA sample by stealing his snot quite forcefully. Yeah, the tentacles going up his nose? That's not something I want to see. Gives me flashbacks to Pirates of the Caribbean when Davy Jones murders that dude who's guarding the heart or the key or whatever it was. Ugh, gruesome. We skip ahead to Elio meeting all of the aliens, and I'm loving that wide shot where he's coming in, where you can see all the different species. It's so bright and colourful and fun, although I will say that now I'm having a second glance, there's a lot of repeat characters there. When you first look, it seems very fantastical, like there's endless species for Elio to meet, but then you notice half of them are the same alien copy and pasted across the scene into different spots. Well, that's not fun. We then got a very funny scene where Elio meets the Universal User's Manual, which apparently contains the secrets of the universe. So obviously, you can ask the real big, deep questions to this guy, talking about the fabric of the universe, the building blocks of creation, anything that's ever happened at any point, anywhere. Mysteries you want the answers to. The secrets behind the meaning of life. And this absolute mad lad asks a basic question. A very easy, who would win? 10 chimps versus 1 gorilla with a baseball bat. I love how the user manual just sighs in despair when he says that. Sort of implies to me that he's really keen to share his knowledge, but everybody he ever speaks to only asks dumb shit like this every time they fire him up. I just find that very hilarious. I also have to dispute that the gorilla would even win. 10 chimps. 10 chimps. Chimps are nasty little freaks who rip at your face and your eyes, and I don't think a gorilla has the dexterity to properly use a baseball bat as a weapon. Plus, the size difference surely isn't enough to take down 10 chimps at once. 10! Secrets of the universe, my ass. This entity is clearly a complete poser. We then get a few shots of Elio chilling with Gordon and just enjoying his new home whilst also being acknowledged as a leader of Earth, before we have the scene with Lord Grygon arriving at the ship and declaring he's going to conquer it. I do wonder at what point of the movie this is meant to be. Is this set before Elio does the whole hostage thing with Gordon, and the dad's now coming to rescue him? Is this the introduction to the character of Lord Grygon, with him then leaving to give them a day to surrender or something? And in the meantime, Gordon sneaks over and befriends Elio? Either way, Elio of course decides that he's going to be the one who saves the day, if for no other reason that everybody else is too scared. Actually, we then have a shot of Elio seemingly meeting Grygon for the first time, so I suspect that Grygon sends a threatening transmission, then Elio goes to meet him. and it doesn't go well. He then meets Gordon after that, and they bond, as we see later in the trailer. They have a talk about how both of them feel like they didn't fit in with their homeworld, their people, their family. Then this would lead into the hostage sequence we see in the trailer and the previous ones. Qui-Gon's then going to start blowing up the base, and I guess maybe Elio's saved via escape pod? Maybe Gordon leads him to one and saves him, but then Elio on Earth gets his aunt to help him steal it so they can go back and save the day. Hell, we actually see his aunt goes with him into space, and so I very much expect that this movie is going to end with a big, heartfelt speech. The aunt is going to apologize to Elio and make it clear she loves him, accepts him, and he belongs with her. Qui-Gon is going to do the same to his son, and they're going to accept that their kids are different, and it doesn't make it a bad thing. I guarantee that some variation of that is going to play out. It feels inevitable, and I think it's going to be pretty sweet. So in the end, based on this trailer, I am very hyped up. The film feels like it's been coming soon for ages, so I'm finally excited to go and see it. I think it's going to be great, but whether or not it does well, we'll have to wait and see. With all that being said, though, that's the end of the trailer, and these have all been my opinions, so now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the Elio trailers we've had? Did you like the look of them? Do you think the movie's going to do well? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.